she's in the house. I mean, technically it's What's Your Story, but it's not going to be that kind of video. You can check the links for other Vex list stuff, content, because we actually created a little playlist for Vex content. And here she is back in the house. I had to wake her up, I think. I think I had to just kind of like bang on the door, go, hey,
A little
hey,
bit.
lady, I know
Mhm.
you had a busy night, but you got to come hang out with me. We got to do our thing. So how you doing? What's going on?
I'm doing great. I will let you know though, because I knew that I was going to be recording with you this morning. I had the best sleep I've had all week, so I am ready. I
Oh,
am
see,
I am on point this morning,
I
even though I
I
woke up.
am I am good for the soul, I think.
Yes,
Well, I'm good for the brown girl souls. That's it, right? You need a little bit of pops in your life, and it makes you happy
yes,
and good, ready to go. That's it. So,
exactly.
and yeah, we didn't give a trigger warning for any of you out there who can't handle even mild racist jokes. This is not going to be a show for you because we try to trigger you. So sorry, you've been warned. So if you
Mhm.
spit your coffee out or you snort through your nose, I've done my job. So with that, sweet girl, what is you've been up to some horrible movie watching? You're frustrated at gaming. I'm like, what is going on in your life lately? So let's. How do you want to drive around this neighborhood lately? Because I don't know. You've been doing a lot of crazy things. I don't know.
I am just kind of. I like that you used a driving analogy actually, because this makes it easier. I am just going where the road takes me, we'll
Mm,
say.
okay.
So if I encounter a roadblock, then maybe I just turn down a different road. That's all I'm doing right now.
Okay. What
Um,
what's this gaming thing? Because you were like, these people, the dumb gaming. I I'm not. I'm a noob, so you have to translate it for the white guy to know that what's going on. Because I'm not
that's
with
fair.
my other nerd brethren on this.
No worries. So you know how like Hollywood's kind of been imploding the last several years. Now they're starting to lose a lot of money, losing a lot of support, right? Similar thing is happening in gaming right now, where it's just now the AAA gamers, meaning like the mainstream gaming developers and publishers. They're all starting to lose a lot of support from just the overall gaming community. They're starting to lose a lot of money. There's also an entire crunch happening in the gaming industry right now for the last, oh, we're pushing like 2 years now. Just waves of layoffs after layoffs hitting every company and every front. The price of producing games is going up because now the focus has shifted away from like the core elements, which is, making a strong narrative, strong characters, establishing some sort of identity, or what's the idea word I'm looking for? Style, basically. And it's just now games just go kind of across the board for this hyper realistic immersion thing. And when you put that much effort into making your games look so realistic and run at a specific frame rate with specific specifications, that costs a lot more money. So, sorry, my cat is meowing below
Hey, I
me.
love the cameo. I love the cat.
Okay,
What's the
I
cat's
can't.
name?
This one is Kylo. Come here, Mr.
Oh
Cool
yeah,
Breeze.
yeah. Kylo just had a birthday.
Yes, he did. Yes, he
Yeah,
did.
here he
Yes,
is.
he did. He's such a handsome
Our
boy.
Kylo cameo. Hey Kylo, how you doing, kitty, kitty, kitty?
I
Hey, little
can't
buddy.
talk on streams or on the phone because he assumes that I'm abandoning him when I just talk with
Well,
people.
you probably are. For me. Sorry, Kylo, you've been replaced temporarily by the pasty white guy.
Another pasty white guy. There you go, because he's already pretty white. Um. So yeah, the
Gaming
the
gaming's expensive, hyper real because they're hyper real because they don't have creative minds, so they're not going to like, hey, let's do an animated one or let's do something that's not hyper realism. It wouldn't be as expensive. Let's do a new type of Sonic or something. They're doing this hyper realism stuff, and that's one of the most expensive things they could be doing right now.
exactly, yeah, and it's not helping because high cost, low sales number. Even if you sell like
Hmm.
2 million copies, you're still not making a revenue because your production cost was so high, right?
Hmm.
Um, and then the games that are taking those kind of creative leaps, they aren't selling as well as one would hope because again, as the industry has shifted towards that hyper realism, gamers have just decided, "Oh, we like this a lot and we'll take it. This is all I care about now in gaming," kind
Hmm.
of deal. Um so the thing that's kind of been irritating me as of late, and this is one of the reasons why I shifted away from making gaming content. Um there once you just follow the news leaks and you identify the pattern that these companies are making and then gamers are choosing to engage in or follow with, you understand that there's no reason to really be upset with it and you can't really salvage this anymore. But instead gamers have kind of been, and it's really ramped up over the last year, I've noticed, where they're going on this crusade to like kind of like save gaming and get rid of all of the toxicity and DEI and
Oh, right, yeah, I know
ESG
we're on
stuff.
wave 2 or 3 of the equivalent of, like, Gamergate type stuff. We're on, like, the 2nd version or 3rd version of, like,
Yeah.
there's still too many men, they're all toxic men, they only want big-chested women, they're complaining when we radically change what the character who had big boobs to not, and all that kind of stuff, so I know we're on that part.
Yeah.
So
So yeah, the Gamergate stuff is kind of like incorporated as, which started off as a genuine movement, I feel.
mhm.
Gamergate 2 has just evolved into we want boobs in games, and that's not a good angle to work with. So I'm just kind of I'm fed up with content creators that are they're just putting out these baity thumbnails and these baity videos, and instead of actually identifying what the problem is and presenting, viewers who maybe can't put it together as well, they just kind of spin this narrative of like kind of like a, how like Down syndrome children, when they fixate on one thing, they just apply that to everything kind of deal, or like
We're still not
handicapped
talking
children.
about boobs though, right? I mean,
No, I
okay.
mean,
I
you
mean,
could
my
you that
brain fixated because you talked about boobs, and now you're on Down syndrome people who love boobs. So I'm like, okay, hang on, that's not what I want to fixate on. Let's fixate on something else. Okay, sorry. I
Down syndrome, hold on, Down syndrome kids that focus on boobs could be a good comparison.
Mhm.
Because they're hyper fixated on just this one element, and as a result they're blind to everything else behind them, and they're not actually painting any story, they're not really making any difference, they're essentially just making content for money, they're making things for clicks. And it bothers me because now a lot of the people that I talk to about gaming, they're just like, oh well, if we stop giving them money, they won't make this shit anymore. And I'm just like, guys, that's not how it works, because gaming had such a strong peak and because it is grown so exponentially so quickly. There's only really one market for purchasing games or playing games. You've put all your eggs in one basket, and now if you say, "Oh, well, I'm not going to buy any more games." There's no competition to like go like to for people to put their money elsewhere, right? And what ends up happening too is you just start buying all the stuff. Oh, these old Assassin's Creed games that I liked went on sale. I'm going to buy them. So you're still it's very much the WB thing, right? Everyone is upset with WB because they butchered a lot of the DC universe, right, on film and all of that stuff. They're putting a lot of, identity politics into their content on HBO. But people say, "Oh, stop supporting WB product and like you'll be okay." But then at the same time, this past year, you guys gave them, it was like $200 million or something like that for Hogwarts Legacy. That's not a game that's the money's not
Right,
going to Portkey Games. It's all going to WB. And now
right.
WB has
Line
learned
items. Hmm.
exactly. So it's you can't just say stop spending money and that fixes the problem. I feel the best way to counter this, and I wish more people would be on board with this, because this is how you get it's kind of like how we got the variety of like studios in Hollywood, for example, right? Is you need to create competition and let that flourish, and only then can you really kind of save something. So if more of these, so I've been follow the one gaming news, like part of gaming news I do still follow, is I follow everyone who's leaving the major studios and
Hmm.
publishers, because those are the vet. Oh, there's the other one. There you go.
Yeah, I get her. Yeah, I get the cat back.
He likes to sit up here when I'm
Yes.
okay. Um, so
So there's not really an indie scene that's been able to create games enough because there's probably a cost barrier that hasn't really been overcome much.
there is an indie scene. Like now, it's this is where you kind of it depends on what platform you're on, right? So it's easy to create an indie game and publish it on Steam, for example, on PC. because it's much easier to get a hold of all of the tools to do that,
Mhm.
and there's less barriers to go through for publication, right? But if you're talking about console, then yeah, there's deals that you have to go through. There's a certain threshold of money you kind of need
Yeah, there's
in
access to the
order.
code and stuff that wouldn't make it work. And are those companies adverse to buying? Like, if I made a cool game and people seem to like it on Steam, am I gonna get a phone call from the Xbox people going, "Hey, man, you ever thought about, like, what would it take to bring it on over?" or something like that? Is that not happening
That
yet?
that could happen, but the problem is like people like PlayStation and Xbox, they're looking at what will make money, not at what's good. So it's
Well,
why
that's what
you'll
I'm saying. I didn't know if that were trying to, so you're answering that
Yeah,
question, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
yeah, they're not trying to do that, unfortunately. If anything, we're seeing a drift farther and farther away from, like, those really cool indie games coming anywhere, which is again, I'm waiting to make the switch to PC when I can afford it. Um, but yeah, nobody no Yes. Sorry.
They're talking back. They're sassy. They're not part of the show.
Yeah.
Kylo, it's like, hey, listen, she got to show her butt. How come I only got to like stroll through? And it's this show is brought to you by Vex's Kitties. That's right. Pet her
It's the
kitties. A
morning.
substitute. Look at that. He's like, it's just a beautiful day outside. You're in here talking to this stupid white guy. What are you doing, Mama?
He already went outside today.
I know. I know. Let's get your meatloaf. Get your little spot. Tuck your feet in. Chill for a minute.
Um,
So I'm trying to
yeah.
equate it to things I can better relate to because obviously this sounds a lot like my Disney trauma and my comic book trauma
Mhm.
because I know things I love are line items. And like when I see like the Agatha trailer, I
Mhm.
see what you see. I see like the red flags of just another piece of garbage content. It's just trash. It doesn't resemble anything I would like. Do I
Mhm.
waste my time? Do I hate on it? I don't try to pretend it's more than what it's supposed to be.
Mhm.
You can move your camera back so I can see you again. So I mean, I love
Oh,
the kitty cam, but
okay.
there you go. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Um, but with the comics, at least there was a way to say, well, I can focus more. I can just stop. When I say I stop giving DC and Marvel my money, I'm actually stopping to give them my time because I actually haven't been reviewing comics much at all anyway. But I've been interested more into indie comics. And then when people are trying to buy older stuff or they're trying to say, listen, I never read this, I never read that, I'm always trying to encourage them to go to a local shop or a guy like me who's trying to sell their stuff on eBay or whatever instead
Mhm.
of giving it back to the company themselves. If you're going on Amazon and you're buying all these hardbacks and whatever, that money is going to that WB line item like you were using the illusion to earlier. So
Mhm.
when people are buying those retro games, are they still buying them through, I'll say Amazon for the best reference point, in a way
Yeah,
that still gives, oh, okay. So they're still, I need my
it's the same
old
thing.
Soul Assassin vintage version, but I'm still buying it through a matrix that gives those people still their money.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're still funding them to do whatever they want to do. They're choosing to do things that are crappy because they're still sellouts to. I'll say DEI because it's a silly nomenclature that encompasses everything.
Overarching, yeah.
Yeah, it's a big, woke slash DEI slash virtue signaling.
Mhm.
Pick all this bundle of crap. Um, so how many people on a percentage basis are even, I want to say complaining, but complaining in a way to go like they do a review and they're saying this one is crap or this one is good or this is what I like or whatever. Is there some what's
Balancing
the
out.
yeah, is there someone trying to put some I mean, I don't
Not a
see
lot of people, no.
yeah. I
Because
don't
that
see
doesn't
that.
Yeah, that doesn't get clicks, right? It's the same thing with when you do a positive review of a movie or you do a positive review of a comic, right? It's people don't wanna hear about good stuff more than, which is a shame, but, like, I exactly what you're talking about, like, "Hey, go support indie creators," or, "Here's where you can buy these comics maybe at resale, not through the original
Hmm.
distributor," right?
Hmm.
Things like that is what I would like people in like, gamers to do as well. It's like, okay, if you're unhappy with this upcoming, like, because Assassin's Creed Shadows is coming out this year, right, with the black samurai in Japan and everything. So it's like, oh, if you're upset with this game that takes place in feudal Japan, here's an indie creator that is also making a game set in feudal Japan that isn't going to involve all of this silly ideological things in there. Like, you're going to just get a fully immersive experience. But gamers don't want that because it's very much like how there's people that don't really enjoy thinking about things. They just like to, like, oh, I go to work, I come home, I watch whatever is on Netflix's top 10 of the
Mhm.
week kind of feed, and
Yeah,
then
the
they don't.
NPC things. Mhm.
Exactly, and gamers do very much the same thing where it's like, "Oh, I see commercial for this game. Oh, for this console, I will buy and I will play." And there's not much thought to the fact that there's literally hundreds of millions of games out there that you could be engaging in outside of the mainstream that actually would, satisfy your interests, present you with interesting stories, have some style, have some creativity, isn't going to have any of this nonsense. But nobody wants to do that work, or nobody is kind of capable of doing that. It's almost hard to want to do that,
Hmm.
which is very odd to me.
Why
So,
why don't you do that? Why don't you say, here's 10 alternatives to solo assassin crap, whatever it's called. I don't know what it is, whatever it
so
is.
what I
I would
tried
just
to
say
do.
that's what I would say. Like, I would say, because I'm talking to myself, because I need to do
Yeah.
this more. It's like, all right, what's 5 good comics to go get at your local shop? Don't go
Mhm.
on Amazon. Stop buying from Amazon, because the money's
Right.
giving Amazon money and it's giving the company money, and they just keep making. Go to the local shop or contact someone like me. He'll go find one for you and say, I want these 5 things.
Mhm.
Uh, what is that? Is that? I mean, obviously that's not a big click getter either, right? I mean,
It isn't, but so I haven't had a lot of time to play games in the last year just because work and other life commitments. But when I do, I don't play a lot of AAA games. I play a lot of indie games now. So I have a Substack where I will write reviews of those games
hmm.
because I want these smaller games to get some sort of exposure. I want them to see like, oh, here's someone who has played a lot of mainstream games or has a bit of a voice in gaming who's recommending this or this or this. So that's how I'm kind of giving a platform to them when I can. If I'm ever talking to people too, because here and there'll be a trailer that catches my eye, and it will usually be some like little indie game. So I'll share that with people and be like, "Hey, this looks pretty like fun and interesting, right?"
Hmm.
Because
Yeah, yeah.
ultimately, that's what's going to carry the industry when all of these AAA games stop making money, right?
Yeah, and I'm, hmm. Look, it's a balance that you have to pick and choose your battles in. Like, I can easily hate on WB and what they've done and how much they've messed up their animated universes, but they're great press partners with me to try to give out physical media. They're one of the few companies that are still. I'm actually watching Secession. I've never watched Secession, and they just gave me the entire Blu-ray set to promote because they're dropping a physical, and they just so Netflix and the WB side are way better at trying to push a piece that I agree with and want to try to do for people who like those things. I don't care if you like. I just did Vikings Valhalla, which I don't think is other than just a mediocre show at best. But
Hmm.
if you're into physical media or you like the Viking stuff, it's actually available on physical media where I can't get physical media on many other things. So
Hmm.
it's just a frustrating balance that's probably driven by just randos in these corporations. These companies are so
Oh yeah.
big, right?
Hmm.
So the gaming person that's in charge and has these 5 executives under them, and they're making all these decisions for creative going forward,
Hmm.
are completely different than the physical media side over here that's dealing with the libraries. And it's just so frustrating to figure out how to move forward. I think it's funny that because you were talking about this, we were talking a little bit privately before we kind of started doing this, and I've seen a lot of content through Loki and Culture Casino and people that are in my circles talking about the finances and the games that are coming out. Just it's another thing that's going broke. And Concord's a thing. What's the deal with the Concord thing? I don't totally even get my head around what's happening. Like there's
Uh,
something that happens with it when things get so stupid, my
mhm.
brain kind of breaks. Like I've
I
always said,
understand.
this is me. So this is the Last Jedi. Pops comes
Mhm.
out of Last Jedi with a WTF. Like, what did I just sit through? Like, I didn't even have a major negative response. I didn't know what to feel. I didn't feel anything until I saw it the second time. I was like, oh, my list of problems just kept growing.
Mhm.
And I'm like, oh no, it'll get better. It's $1 billion franchise. So surely they're not going to screw this up. Surely they have a plan. Blah blah blah. And I can tell you, for 2 years, I would be on the phone with my one son, and we would fan fiction ideas. It is way better than Rise of Skywalker. The fan fiction ideas that we would have to fix it was way better than the end result. So I
Mhm.
have such a brain breakage when I see people have this great opportunity like this. And you
Mhm.
can't step back. There's no one in the room that says this sucks. There's no one in the room that says that's what keeps happening over and over and over again. So
Mhm.
I guess give me a little bit of the Concord 101 so I can kind of better understand how that might fit into this frame as well.
Sure. Okay, so Concord was a live service game developed by Firewalk Studios, which is owned by PlayStation slash Sony now. They were bought out in 2021, I think it was. It was fairly recently. So a live service game is just a game that is completely online. It's a multiplayer aspect. Usually there's a lot of you purchase skins, loot boxes, all of that stuff, right? So when this game had a trailer launch, it showed all of the characters that you could play as, and they were all kind of checkbox characters. So this person is gay, this person is black and a woman, this person is a strong, independent woman kind of deal, right? And everyone was just kind of like, this is a new IP. Who is this really for? Like, and this is also coming at a time where live service games have already had their peak and now they're on a downfall when the trailer first released for this. So gamers aren't really buying into the live service thing anymore unless it's something big like Call of Duty, for example, right? Where yes, there's a new game that comes out every year, but it's basically the same reskinned garbage, but it generates money, right? It's a reliable brand, we'll say. So the game came out, nobody played it, nobody bought it. The total sales figures for physical copies was about 25,000 worldwide, which is abysmal. The Steam counts
Wait, I'm
were
sorry. Hold on. Wait,
yeah,
25 physical 25,000
25,000.
that's all they sold globally?
Yes.
Wow, that's like DC Comics bad, guys. That's
Yeah,
like man, that is
disastrous.
yeah. I bet we could just make something and sell 25,000. I mean, that is such a low number.
Yeah,
Wow. Okay. All right. So I know that's not the target part of what they're trying
you're
to sell
good.
are selling mostly online. However, that's still a shockingly bad number for a big company
For
like
physical
Sony.
copies, yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any exact numbers on, like, the digital copies, but, like, the Steam player count, at least, it's never cracked 700 at its peak, so it's nobody was engaging with this game, basically. So, it came out in August, and the player counts were so bad, the engagement was so bad that 8 days after launch, Sony announced that they were going to pull support for the game, they were gonna take it offline, and they were gonna offer refunds to everyone who purchased the game. So, it's offline now. It went offline
They
last
are
week.
right. They went full uh Batgirl on this
Yeah,
game. They
yeah.
went full, you know what? We'll just write it all down. We'll just write it all off.
I
It's
don't think
real.
they're going to write it all off. Just the so the because so this game was in development for 6 years. There's no official budget for it, but it's over $100 million over that 6 years. So and then on top of that, Sony had purchased the studio. They had also even gone as far as making like custom controllers for this game and accessories. And then Concord will also be featured in this upcoming Amazon show. I think it's coming out next month or November, where it's like an episodic series, like that each episode is based off of a game that exists, kind of deal. So Concord is on that list. So they've invested a lot of money into this and they can't write it off anymore. So I think the best case scenario is they've taken it offline, they're going to tweak it a bit, and they're going to relaunch it. Because
Okay.
the other problem too is this came out with a $40 price tag, which that's not a lot of money for a new game, but for a live service game that's a new IP, most live service games are free to play, and then you generate your income with all of the skins and loot boxes and weapons that you can
Mhm.
purchase.
Mhm.
So already the $40 price tag without much anything else, people are just kind of like, again, understanding where that genre of gaming has gone. Live service is no longer at its peak. Live service doesn't largely charge outright for a game anymore, let alone that much money. So there's a
So when I said write it down though, or write it off, I want to make sure I'm clear for people that don't
yeah.
understand how that math works for an accounting
Mhm,
purposes, right? So if I sold 25,000 copies at $40, so I got
mhm,
my $1,000,000, but I give refunds.
mhm.
So instead of making $1,000,000, I only make like $200,000 because not everybody wants a refund
Yeah.
or whatever. So I just don't get all my. So I end up having a line item that just. So again, just line items on a spreadsheet, guys. Just think of line items on the spreadsheet on your balance, your checkbook. So instead of being you had this much money come in, now you only have this much money come in because you subtracted out whatever.
Hmm.
You just keep doing that and on scale, and it eventually becomes negates other profits or other things and creates more deficit. And then later on, hopefully, you can reinvest or recalibrate and try to figure out how to right that ship. Something like Batgirl was a total just take all the negatives off
Yeah.
the board because with
Hmm.
the impact to the brand was going to be so much more negative. Or they have to invest, they have to spend more to even make whatever. So with Concord, it sounds like they may be trying to redirect, but
Hmm.
I'm still shocked at let me ask a clarifying statement before I get there. So
Hmm.
I'm assuming because you mentioned all of the checkbox characters, the body positivities, all the yeah.
Hmm.
There's no like hunky white dude. There's no like hunky black dudes. There were no so they didn't just so they didn't like just add more. They took away from the other people too. Like so
Pretty
if
much.
the, okay so that's my big thing. I don't have a problem. It's like as if we had like let's say we're gonna make 20 characters and you're
Hmm.
gonna have black positivity girl and purple hair. Bridget from work, and you're gonna have flaming gay guy. You're gonna okay, fine. We're just gonna all fine, but then you have like have the jock guy who's a complete brain dead hunk, and then you're gonna have big boob girl, and then you're gonna
You
have
mean diversity, Pops? You're
all of it.
asking for
I mean,
diversity?
all of it. I mean, I don't even care how I mean, but that's me. I'm like, I'd rather have all of it. I'd rather have everything and then let the chips fall where they may, baby. If everyone just loves that gay dude because he's just the best at doing whatever Concord is, I don't even know, then it is. That's what it is. And everyone has to just live with that. So
Yeah.
fantastic. Wow. Wow. This is I'm glad
Yes.
I could get to someone like you who could drill it down for me because I just don't I get a laugh watching people who are like Angry Canadian and Nerdporial and these guys that play like retro games, and they're
Mhm.
really into it. I mean, they're into like the music and the detail. And like, so I can see that, and that's like it hits my nostalgia bug because I had boys and they played some of these games too, and they all
Mhm.
talk about like vintage Star Wars games. They talk about stuff. When it comes to the new stuff, these are all people that shake their head. So it keeps me a
Yeah,
little out of the loop on kind of how bad things are. So
I get you.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Because I just see the numbers, you know, eight
I
hundred
yeah.
gajillion dollars per year are spent on whatever, and
Mhm.
what? Oh, all right, whatever. So yeah. Okay. Well, I'm
Yeah.
sorry you have such a sad part of your life that is. I don't want to say taken away, but you feel like, yeah, I can't really connect and enjoy this the way I used to.
You know what? I don't feel that way actually at all. Yeah.
Good.
It's more that because again, I noticed this trend years ago. So I've already like there's maybe I think there's like one AAA game that I'm excited for that's coming out soon, right? That's it, but the rest of the stuff I really look forward to are just, like, these cute little indie games, like, I don't care about hyper realistic graphics, I don't care about diversity and checkboxes, just give me a good story and give me something that's unique that I can like, if someone gives me, like, a bunch of screenshots from different games, and they're just like, "Tell me what that's from." Just like, "Yeah, I can tell you what that's from." You give me a screenshot from, like, everything that comes out in AAA, I'm just like, "I can't these are trees all from the same game, right?" And it's like, "No, these are actually 6 different games I'm showing you right now."
Hmm.
So I just wanna see some creativity. It's the same like, Hollywood has that same problem, right? Where it's everyone has just kind of defaulted to the same, like, stylistic camera angles and the same gradients and the same, kind of, like, plot beats almost for all of its movies, and there seems to be no creativity in it.
Mhm.
You can show me screenshots from 12 different movies and just they might all look like they're from the same movie.
Yeah, and as a nerd, I am just I can't relate to any of this happening. So for me, again, here's my pitch of video game worlds. You guys help me. I'm more of the because I'm an arcade kid. I didn't even really I did arcade and Atari, and that's pretty much it. I checked
Mhm.
out. I got things to do. I was a nerd in other areas. So, but I would think it would be a cash cow to drop Pac-Man 2024, and you don't even have to tell everybody, and you have all new mazes that no one's ever seen. These are just crazy mazes. It may even look what on what was it 24-bit 18 bit I don't know what kind of graphics they were very cheap graphics for its age
8-bit.
18
8-bit, I think.
8-bit, yeah. Even if you
Yeah.
had 8-bit screens, the mazes are just not what you think they are. The solutions are different. Just the idea that you could have that nostalgia bug and then give someone something mindless to do to entertain themselves and not have to get into politics. They're freaking ghosts in a pack. Like, I don't understand why that's not an easy money making thing that seems like a relatively low cost, especially because we're headed into like the AI thing. We're headed in a world where it seems like it would be so easy to recreate and then have humans check the work and then recreate and have the humans check the work. And I don't know. Mm, I'm with
I
you.
agree with you to a certain extent there. Like, I think, yeah, just bring back classics or give something that resembles a classic and give that to consumers, because you hook in a variety of people instead of just exclusively catering to a younger base or an older base, right? At the same time, though,
But I would think that would be one piece of a marketing strategy. Like, that
yeah,
wouldn't be the only marketing strategy, right?
for
It's
sure,
one
for
piece,
sure.
right? And then over here, we might have a hyper realism thing, but we don't have all of our chips in that basket. And then over here, we went on Steam and we saw this one guy's thing, and we're trying to partner with him because he's obviously got so many people that are interested into his thing that he knows something. I don't.
Mhm.
It just, to me, it just seems, again, bring my head breaks.
Incompetence, much like Hollywood. It's
Yeah,
just
pretty
incompetence
much.
across the board. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
I do see. I'll make this last point, and then if we move on. But I do see a lot of people are, because several years ago they started doing like remasters or remakes, right? With the newer consoles for games that were a little bit old or could use the upgrade. And at first it was nice because you get things like the BioShock games. I don't know if you've played those at all.
No, no, I know of them. I know what they are.
Okay, you'd enjoy those actually. I think you'd really
I
enjoy.
do not game. I don't have. I'm at the point now where I don't even dex. Me playing the game would be just me walking backwards and just not even knowing how to open a door. I just, it's just a complete waste of our. It'd be more fun to actually record live reactions of me watching really bad movies. So that would
Okay,
probably be, yeah. So
all right,
I
fair.
get the appreciation of some of these games, and the kids watch it. Kids will play them, and I'll watch them play or stuff. But I only
Mhm.
have an attention span for that for like 10 minutes or so.
So yeah, several years ago during the last console generation, they started making like remasters of older games, and it was justified to an extent because they would put together games in a bundle. Excuse me, they'd be, upgraded specs wise so that they ran better.
Hmm.
But it was usually at a better price than buying all of those old games individually to run on your new console, right? So like the BioShock collection is a great example. It was like, I think it was like $40 when it came out. It was all 3 games plus all of the additional download content for all 3 games. And it was a really good deal compared to $15 per game plus another 20 to 30 for all of the DLC content for all those games. But now it's now become the default for a lot of these companies to make their money back. So these days when I hear that's there's a publisher or developer like remaking something or remastering something, I know it's just because you have failed so immensely at all of the new product you're putting out. They're not meeting figures, that all you have left is to default all to the stuff that sold well a
Mm.
decade, 2 decades ago, and try and win back your old consumer base as well as entice a newer one to try something that isn't just, FIFA or NBA or Call of Duty on your console kind of deal.
Mm.
So,
Gotcha.
the only example I've really seen of a remaster working well is the Dead Space remake, which I'm playing right now. But that came out last year, and it wasn't just like a full top to bottom remake of the original game. It also included like new side missions that you could explore, and it was still $80, but it was like it kind of felt like you were playing a brand new game altogether. So like I knew where all of the monsters were going to show up. I knew where all the creepy parts were going to be, but it still felt like I was playing a brand new game because it was so drastically different from what the original was, in a good way though.
Okay.
But then you have companies like PlayStation that are taking something like The Last of Us, which already looked great in its original release, but it's now had 2 additional remasters in 10 years. Why?
Okay.
And then you
Yeah.
have a game, the sequel to that came out 6 years ago, I think it was?
So, again, if I equated it to a comic book, though, I would say, again, CEO of the companies,
Mhm.
Like Watchmen will be a comic book that will sell forever. One of the
Mhm.
better selling trade paperbacks, right? So every year I have to do a new printing. It's probably not even yearly, but let's just assume I have to do a new printing every year. It
Mhm.
seems like every year I would give my customer, and I'm assuming a new customer or a customer that's old that wants a new version or whatever,
Mhm.
a little something that's better or new. So a different cover, maybe a new interview,
Mhm.
maybe some extra feature or something. To me that just seems like part, again, this
Oh,
is my brain breaking, right? Because I can't fathom.
this is a
uh
great example of what you're talking about.
Correct. I have to do it.
Yeah.
So when those run out and I have to do a new printing of those,
Mhm.
okay, then I'll call James Abar and talk about what kind of new covers we can add. Do we have a new interview? What published interviews have been out there that you think would be good to add to the new version? Could we add and you come up with the new hardback or the new whatevers, and
Mhm.
you put that out for X number of time, however long it takes to sell out of those for whatever. And then you go on, and every single piece of your business should run this way of there's what is the Adams Family. Remember the scene where Gomez is like old business versus new business, and it was like this
Yes.
really silly gag in the movie. And I'm like,
Mhm.
that actually is kind of how things are supposed to operate. This guy goes from the new business meeting to the old business meeting to the market. It's like I don't. My brain pops because no, that was a bad pun, wasn't it? My brain breaks whenever I hear these stories because I'm like,
It's so easy to come up with a reasonable, sustainable solution, right?
100%. Because you know all of the factors you know. So, for instance, they should be able to calculate based on the thing that sells well for them. So, let's say Bioshock, and they say, oh, we need to replenish the Bioshock inventory or whatever it is that people are going to be searching for because we can see the sales as it's going along. That's okay. So, by the end of 2025, we have to have something new ready to go for these new customers or the old customers that need to get a new version.
Mhm.
So, what do we put together? Is there an anniversary year coming up or whatever it is?
Mhm.
How do we have a market? We got to have a team of you're going to head up the Bioshock relaunch of, you don't have to reinvent the wheel, but sometimes there are upgrades of quality, a new,
Yep.
you call it, is it a challenge what you're talking about with Dead Space? Is it a new challenge or
New
exploration or
missions. Yeah, new
new
missions
mission?
and
Okay, so maybe there's new missions or things that you could add that would be cost productive. Like it's not going to cost an arm and a leg to invest a ton of money for one piece because people would be pissed off thinking that it was bigger than it was. You don't oversell, you always undersell and over deliver. So yeah, I don't know. All right, well, you've caught me up on my gaming thing, so we'll see how many months I have to go before I have to have this conversation with someone else again, because everyone in chat, they are all way more into this than I am, and they'll be more than happy to respond to our interactions and conversations about
yeah,
this. Because
I'm finding that gamers are missing the point and they're harping on little things that we've all known exist for a very long time. It's just, oh, now it's becoming obvious in gaming, like it in the last 6, 7 years became obvious in Hollywood, right?
hmm
Um, but it's just you're not approaching as people that have a voice or who are making criticisms or are informing other people, you're not approaching this in the right way that's going to stimulate any change. And instead you're approaching this as like the leftists do, which is just screeching and whining, which isn't going to work because they've spent the last 30, 40 years taking over those industries to get where they are now. So for you to be doing the same, it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to make a big difference.
gamers are dumb.
Gamers
And
are
I
dumb.
was and I was paying attention even after the boob intro, just so we're completely clear for all of you and all my critics out there. That's totally fine. So
Mhm.
yeah, all right. Well, that's what Vex has been up to. We'll talk about movies a little bit later, I think. But
You
yeah,
got into AI,
I know
recently.
as Angry Canadian recently had posted, the storyline of Pops going deep on AI wasn't something I foresaw for 2024. And you kind of concurred, like, wait a minute, I didn't see this coming. And I was
Nope.
really trolling you on Sassy because you were kind of running things and you and Cannoli shows, and where I just send you random photos that were tied into what you guys were talking about because AI is so
Oh, great.
fast at doing those things.
Mhm.
Um, okay, so yeah, with Vex, we'll go down the rabbit hole. So the rabbit hole goes back to some time. I can't put my finger on because my business partner and I don't remember because we
Okay.
got the access through someone else, and they would really have the calendar. We were sort
Mhm.
of the accessory because I was running and writing for a Google News website, and we had started our own, but it hadn't really taken off yet. And we
Okay.
got to be in the room for one of these. It's not really an interview. What they do is they had these conference calls, and you'd be able to be on the call and listen. And hopefully your questions you could get a question in. Most of the time you were just happy to be in the room. This is
Mhm.
Ray Kurzweil, who is this AI forerunner, saying this is all going to happen as far back, I mean, like 30 something years ago. He knew the timeline towards singularity. This is his thing. Okay. His name is Ray
Okay.
Kurzweil. Now, at the time, it sounds completely insane, not even like science fiction. It just sounds like a crazy thing to think how fast technology will go. But when you
Mhm.
have someone like this who explains, it takes, let's say, I don't have a great analogy for now because now the world's changed so much, but let me just presume iPhone 1 to iPhone 2, the tech that it would take to make X amount of upgrades. And really, I'm talking about real upgrades, not like, oh, it's a fancy phone. I'm talking about like speed, memory, chip sizes, whatever. Let's say it takes 5 years. To
Mhm.
go from 2 to 3, though, now takes like 2.5 years. And then it
Mhm.
takes, it's an exponential curve. So I was like, okay, so always in the back of my mind, and I've watched technology change. I've watched technology go fast and all of that. And then a couple years ago, I knew they really seriously were working on changing Alexa and Siri, that are essentially AIs.
Mhm.
Algorithms are nothing more than AI.
Mhm.
And going, okay, they're going to make this more accessible, and they're really moving fast. And then post pandemic, because I think during the pandemic is when things probably changed. I think if we had to write a book when people were stuck at home and had nothing else to do, they decided they would just work on these things and probably
Yep.
make a ton of money in the future. Like, all right, listen, I can just do this. And now we are seeing an explosion that is so fast. I don't think we recognize, I think that we sound crazy when we make predictions. And I think
Mhm.
that every prediction that sounded like this is what the world would be like in 70, 80 years became 50 years. Now it's like 25 years. Now it's so all right, so that's how I got down the rabbit hole, because I'm seeing things that were crazy that become sci-fi,
Mhm.
becoming real.
Mhm.
And I always was privy to the NSA spying, like the Snowden stuff, right? I was privy
Yep.
to this. I had we had access to files, the Hillary hack, the John Podesta hack,
Mhm.
the Julian Assange stuff. We knew what the government was doing. Like we
Mhm.
understood that if you had a computer that could store everyone's metadata, it's not rocket science that you could go through that metadata and pull a file on Pops and see who's. And then we found an
What is
expert.
Pops doing? Just
Well, and worse than just Pops is doing, we found an expert who explained, this is terminology at the time,
Mhm.
because they didn't really explain it in AI terms, but in algorithmic terms, but that's technically what they were doing,
Mhm.
is they called it a hop. Now, I'm friends with you. You would be one hop away.
Mhm.
Let's say your parents are 2 hops away from me,
Mhm.
right? Your parents have a friend that you don't even know. Now they're
Mhm.
3 hops away. Okay. It ends up being that it only takes about 9 hops and you go around the globe, because you eventually hit people that are so big that it takes the hops like crazy, right?
Gotcha.
I didn't believe that at first. And then I went down just a hop through my other business partners into just our Facebook circles. At the time, it was mostly Facebook. All the other social medias were still very small.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh crap, we're friends with like politicians and company leaders, news people. Whoa, 9 hops is realistic. Then I was like, okay, so you could see the government was able to access, and it's not like people were actually doing it. It's like, but if
Mhm.
you wanted to run a warrant on Pops, they'd go get a FISA warrant and they would have pull the Pops file, pull the
Yeah.
Pops data. It's all of his emails, and all the companies were complicit. And this dates back to what Snowden released, because Snowden didn't put anyone in harm's way. He just said there's a whole bunch of these PowerPoints and algorithms. This is what he was doing. He was exposing the fact that they really could just do this, and they could just,
Yeah.
and we're talking about cameras, the Born Identity scene where they're in the laptop in the car and they're accessing the camera that's upstairs.
Mhm.
Boy, when I said they could do that, people thought, "Oh, you're crazy tinfoil hat." Blah blah. I'm like, this was once I made a movie. I was like, I talked about this like 5 to 8 years ago. You people were, so I was so pissed in that movie. I was so mad in that movie when that scene happened. I was like, oh,
I told you.
I know. I don't. They've been doing this. So during this course of seeing changes, I was like, okay, what does this really mean? And I was very early on, like having fun with like face swapping and
Mhm.
refacing and just all that kind of stuff. And even to the point where I was like, I noticed that even those companies that I was like, I'd spend like $20 or something. I would try to reach out. How do I, get like, you know, pro services and whatever, and
Yeah.
they would like retreat on what they would allow you to do because they were battling copyright rules. They were trying to figure out how they could not be in trouble. So
Mhm.
that's why on stuff like that, you don't see like stored movie clips like you originally did. Like before, I was able to take a movie clip and make it look like Pops being Indiana Jones doing something, and now they're like,
Mhm.
oh no, Paramount's like, or yeah, they're all pissy, but now Lucasfilm, oh no, you can't do that. So now you have to upload a photo, and you can do a photo, but you can't make like video clips. You can't. It's all part of what was parsing out over the last couple of years. Then I just started finding one expert after another. Like, okay,
Mhm.
so I forget how it started, but then it was like, okay, who's in charge of this program, who's in charge of that program, and then I'm like, oh, okay, now, and that's how I got down the rabbit hole. And yeah, it is. Chat GPT 4 and 5 are so amazing replacements for Google searching and getting information because Google's basically been corrupted for so long by paying for being in first place, and the
Mhm.
data is outdated. So if I look, so I had to look up like the replace a mower blade on one of my lawnmowers, and we got the wrong blade. They gave us the wrong blade. So I was
Okay.
ticked off. So I went on the internet, and all I saw was confusion. ChatGPT, here's what I have, and it told me exactly what I needed. There was no like, it wasn't trying to sell me anything. It wasn't trying to gear me to Amazon or Walmart. It was just saying, this is what you need. It's just an instruction manual. It's like it just knew.
Hmm.
Um, so my eyes kind of opened to, okay, it has access to like encyclopedic knowledge. What else can it do? And that's kind of how, so that piece runs for me. And then of course the photos and the AI. So I've been playing with that for the YouTube side for this whole time. I've been doing that. I did to you. I put you into like a Western one or something one time, and I
The
put you in.
Crow, I think you put
I did
me
the
into one.
Crow. Yeah, we did
Yeah.
that one. Yeah. So yeah, it's just fun to do that. So I know it's coming. Oh, first of all, I know it's here. I
Mhm.
don't think people understand how far we are, because there's AI and then there's robots. So there's kind of like two pieces. They kind of work together, but they're not. There's AI is
Mhm.
what's happening right now, and we're very much on the cusp of task-driven replacement.
Mhm.
And I think I showed you the Crow clip where it's like, okay, I could take this thing, ask it to make a poem or a song, and then they can put music to it, and
Yeah.
it just does it within a few minutes. And I will say it's creating, it's not creative, and you
Mhm.
do probably need to tweak it, but that's a tool, right? And I do think that there is an argument about what is creativity and what is intelligence, and that's
I
kind of
agree.
that is part of the nuance in all of this,
Mhm.
right? What is creativity and what is nuance? So people can
Mm.
be ticked at me about all this, but I'm like, okay, if you went to school to be a poet or a songwriter and you study music and you're studying lyricists and you're studying history and you're doing all these things and you're learning all of this, and then you're trying to say, I'm going to do X
Mhm.
based on that result, how is that any different than the computer doing that just without all of that time? Their time served is so instantaneous to a human.
Yeah.
The end result is really not that different. And I know that's a really hot take for a lot of folks to handle because I'm not trying to say you suck. I'm just trying to say what it does is not as significantly different than we thought. And
Objectively, it is not different. Subjectively, that's where the argument comes in.
right, and and then the problem is this with and this is where we've been completely wrong. So everything
Mhm.
that was wrong was the creative side would be last, right? Because they can't be creative, right? It
Mhm.
can't do creative things. It's
Mhm.
going to be more like task stuff, which you've already seen, right? You can make your order through Alexa. You can just have it run your email. You can have it it just does these task things. The creative side, right? Well, that's where the problem comes into, because what is subjective, right? Is the
Mhm.
art good? Is the art bad? Is the music good? Is the music bad? And that's why
Mhm.
AI has, I think, leapfrogged in the creative circles, because I can kind of live with the AI version compared to having the budget to pay for the artist. And that's the problem, is they don't understand that there's all these constraints and finances and things that drive the markets. So,
Mhm.
so yeah, I am definitely down the rabbit hole. I think I told you right before we started. Like, I think I listened to 2 new videos yesterday, and it was like 10 new apps I'd never even heard of.
I'm gonna watch those now later
I
today
have to
because
send
I'm
you the
curious.
links. I have to send you the
Yeah.
links
I'd
because
like you
it's
to
like,
share your research with me too, because I'm very curious. Because 'cause I've noticed the same leap, like, just from 3 months ago. Because I would have
mhm,
these conversations with my boss, right, at work, because she's very interested in what ChatGPT can do, and there's a
mhm,
lot more. Because I work in education,
mhm,
and there's a lot of kids, now that
Yeah.
everything for school is online, they use ChatGPT and these like Grammarly, all these AI editing apps to either write things for them or completely edit their work so that they can just get it done and get it out. So it's becoming an issue in it because it's not used as a tool, it's used as a substitute, which is not
Right. That's not
how it
correct.
should
Right.
be. Exactly. But kids don't know that, right? So she's been very curious about, oh, how can we get, so we'd use it to prompt us for like educational blog posts for our business website and stuff
Hmm.
like that, and then we would create blog posts based on that prompt. But I was reading I was reading an article, it was like 2 3 weeks ago. AI has advanced so much in the last year, they can now take scans of breast tissue from like a few years ago, right? And what the AI will do is it will track anomalies, and it can
Hmm.
now track signs of breast cancer 8 years earlier than
Hmm.
previously thought. And it's
Yep.
like it's minuscule, minuscule things when you look at the scan.
Yeah.
I was just like that is insane. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
I can't pronounce his last name. His first name is Peter.
Mhm.
Um, but part of his side business, when they're billionaires like this, the side
Mhm.
business, he's into that health side where he and others are doing these like full 2 hour regular AI scans.
Mhm.
So they're doing MRIs and they're uploading all of these different, like, all the blood tests and all the scans and CAT scans. So they're doing this regularly
Mhm.
to feed AI to build a model to look for that type of change to teach it how to have earlier and earlier detection. Now, because that's their big thing. It's like, listen, AI is not going to make us live longer because it's got some sort of magic formula and rubric
Mhm.
to make us live longer. But the early detection and getting you to a cure and treatment faster would increase life expectancy and, if nothing else, quality of life. And there's
Yes.
no arguing with that because it
Mhm.
absolutely can do what you said. There's no reason that it uh, it just won't make human oversight and errors the way we do. And it
Mhm.
can just recheck things within seconds. Like it
Yep.
has the ability to not have to worry about the labor costs that go into
Mhm.
this stuff and giving you the quality that you need at a lower cost. Um, so I think with those two videos, I'll send you those links. The uh, it's we're at the app phase now with what apps will work and what will I don't know yet, right? So
Mhm.
yes, I play with Chat GPT, and yes, I play with Grok, and I have several, but I'm always learning about new ones and be like, oh, this one is good for finances, and oh, this one's doing this, and this one's doing. And it's like your head's like swimming because I
Mhm.
don't think that we're at just the almost like a brainstorming phase with all of
Mhm.
this, like the how to get this stuff into life application for task replacement.
Yeah.
Some things will work, some things won't take, some things will be cost effective, some things won't. I don't know.
Mhm.
I'm I'm of the opinion that it is by far well, let me say it this way. The one guy, his name is Ahmad Mustak. He said he likened it to like a college grad or at least a college freshman. They know a lot of stuff, but they need your help in the real world. They need your guidance and you have to teach
Yeah.
them. You have to train them. You have to give them SOP training. That is so true to where you're at because once you figure it out, because going back to Angry Canadian, because he was like
Mhm.
using AI to make an image. He's like, "Oh, I did this," and I said, "Okay, let me do it," and I did it. And he's like, "Holy crap! How'd you get one to come out so?" I'm like, "Well, because your prompt, you have to put in like have the fire come out of the right eye, and
Mhm.
you have to give it more instruction, and you'll
Mhm.
get better results." And I think this is where we're at with all the apps and all the things. Is like what I will need would be different than what you need, but there's no
Yep.
cost difference to get us the exact same tool, and that's what's changing is people
Mhm.
don't have their head around it. Seems like something that needs to be real techy or needs to whatever, and I think we have to figure out that's where the two will be connecting. So I think that is the next 6 to 18 months is where that changes for most people. Now again, there's going to be people that are never going to come on board, but I would say 6 to 18 months
Mhm.
these things will be regularly part of almost everyone's life in some way, shape, or form, even more than it already is now.
Mhm.
I talked to a coworker recently, and they at least acknowledged that at the top of their Google search there was AI Gemini. That's one of theirs. And I'm like, so you do certain type of Google searches because it's not learning from everything, but it does
Yeah.
learn from. So we'll have AI Gemini will come up at the top of your Google search and give you an answer. And those are usually more fact driven type thing. Again, it's like an encyclopedia. It's by far the Google Wikipedia type searching without all of the gender, without all the placement, without all the noise. Not
Yeah.
blog posts.
Bare bones, straight to the point
Yes.
information. Yeah.
It also is, and ChatGPT is really good at, list me movies that will celebrate a 5-year, 10-year, 15, 20, 25-year, 50, whatever anniversary in 2025.
Mhm.
List them in whatever type of order,
Mhm.
and it will just do it. There's no, yeah, it has no feelings to get hurt. It doesn't call out sick. It
It's not
doesn't.
gonna tell you that Kamala Harris is a great presidential candidate because
Uh,
this movie turns 50
Gemini,
years old.
Gemini, I think is the one that got. No, that was Google search. That wasn't the AI. That was the regular Google search. Got caught
Mhm.
on the Trump Harris debacles where they give
Yep.
you different results that are wrong. But
Mhm.
that's the Google search part, but not the AI Gemini. So I'm not sure. This is where people putting their finger on the scale will become more apparent because these models, and I say models, apps, things, they will become so common. It will be easy to see, and that's why I said the market's going to go crazy for a while, and then it will recede back into, because of quality and what will work and what don't work. So that's kind of,
There is because now that we're on it, I'm just I'm thinking of all because I'm not following it as closely as you are, but I am noticing that same exponential growth in that
mhm,
area. But I'll get because I don't have YouTube Premium because ads don't bother me. But I used to get the advertisements for those mobile apps that could quickly clip together YouTube shorts for you,
mhm,
right? And
yep,
it was very much oh, just input your script and it will generate text, input your video. Now you can download these apps you just have to put in a prompt and it will
mhm,
make the script, the voiceover, and the video for you in
mhm.
not even minutes.
Yeah, I did it for cannoli. I
Hmm.
put the video on my. It's under the member tab, and it
Hmm.
was the cannoli versus the cockroaches story that you guys were chatting about. I made a little story and it did a little 2-minute video. We had a tweak. I didn't want to tweak it too much because I wanted it to be as authentic and raw with as less information as possible. And
Hmm.
it got hung up a couple times. It doesn't know, and it doesn't understand a cannoli Sasquatch. So it's really having a hard time understanding the brown haired Yeti, the brown, it's having a hard time. But
Yeah.
the essence of what we were trying to accomplish was really quite insane for, like you said, just a couple of prompts.
Hmm.
I've played around with. I have in video, and I haven't had a chance to play around with it yet because it drives so much off of stock footage video because it's trying to avoid copyright issues.
Gotcha.
But as far as voiceover goes and adapting your script to video and audio is just spot on. And you can change the voices. This is not like you can upload your own voice, which I haven't done yet.
Hmm.
I'm a little weirded out by does that mean they own it forever? Because I'm a little weirded out by once I do it, you know what I mean? I don't know the answer to that question because you can do
Hmm.
that. You can put your own voice in. Um, but I did this in a video. No, I did his video. I did an Italian guy's voice, so it's English, but it's got an Italian accent. You can just
Okay.
change it. It just changes them for you. So that's already here. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, I'm down that rabbit hole for sure. And there's things that I have found along the way. I guess I could pull up one. I'll pull up one here really quick while we're chatting because this is
Mhm.
where it's because your brain starts going down the rabbit hole. I don't know about you, but my brain was like, how do I don't
No,
say
my brain does that with
capitalize.
things too. I get you.
Yeah. How do I capitalize on that? But also how do I bring things to life that I don't know how to do? Right. So that was kind of my thing. It's I don't know exactly how to bring certain things to light. Could I use this to do it? Um, so this was something that I found. This is not the best example. There's one person has a great channel where they did it and they use AI to be what you think is in the Bible versus what's in the Bible. So this is their
Oh.
version of the flood, and they just use AI to recreate this sequence, and you just have the raining and the flood starting and narration, and again, I assume it's just prompts and just that's it. It just does it automatically. There's no person that did any of this. It just happened. They just did it.
Hmm.
Um, so that's already a thing. You'll find a lot of that. I know the clips. There's a lot of short channels that have the clips of like a famous Joe Rogan interview.
Mhm.
It's like people just make clip channels now. So the idea that you control your own clips is probably not ever going to be a thing. Like that's pretty much they're already getting away with it with the big people. They're just not doing it
Mhm.
with me. But at some point they'll be like, just do it with anybody. But
Yeah.
they just take a clip and just we made it new. It's not your thing. We just made our own little version of your I don't know. I don't know. Um, should we talk about robots too? Because robots is another angle that's where it gets a little weird, right?
It because they're almost synchronized now at this point, right? Because now they're putting they're because before it was just like the robots, it's like machinery, right? Machinery parts in a factory. It's programmed to do X, Y, Z. But now I'm seeing like, have you? I know these are in Orlando because I've seen them in Orlando, but you can go to restaurants and they have the robots that will come serve you, and they even have like they'll say like, "Do you need anything else?"
Yeah.
So they're getting there as well.
Yeah. It's going to be a thing. So I'm pulling
Mhm.
up figure two. Um, yeah. So I think so what we're going to see, the first thing we're going to see is by far that this will happen in factories, like you said, tasks.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
the no name robot that just has a swinging arm or whatever will become more complicated. They already have
Mhm.
figured out the hands, which again, I'm such a nerd on this, guys. I totally get it. I just loved listening to even Elon, who's really kind of the noob in this. He's actually not the expert. They have other techie people who get into why your fingers are different lengths, what a difference it is to make a robot,
Oh.
because you wouldn't think about it, right? So you make a
Mhm.
robot and they just have hands, and it's like, oh no. Once you change the lengths, it changes their dexterity and their precision. It's like from picking up a glass versus, being able to pick up my little bottle versus my bigger bottle because of this.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, that does make sense. It's like why your feet don't have five same length toes has to do with the way you balance, your coordinate. I mean, it's just, whoa. Yeah. Center of gravity stuff. So this will happen probably in the next 12 months. I think you'll have these robots will be in one of the auto manufacturers because it seems like the most applicable to replace. These are called figure twos, and they already have all of this incredible dexterity and mobility and strength. They already are this, and they train in their offices. This is what they do. They just go and they keep training. They keep learning and training and teaching. They have multiple cameras. This is the dexterity thing. This one has similar hands, but yeah. So I think within the next year, we're going to see this piece make like the Volkswagen factory, the BMW factory. Tesla has their own version, so it could be
Mhm.
Tesla. They have their own version. He has his own version. Um, yeah, this is them how it will work. They're teaching. They have these computer. This is it in action, moving the little crate, and this is how they teach it. So yeah, I think that yeah, within a year, I think it'll be in some sort of factory and replacing that repetitive work and reduce. Because think about the cost, right? So not only the
Mhm.
salary, the insurance, workers' comp, time, sick leave, taking breaks, it can just generate. So what does that do for cost of a vehicle? What does that do for cost of a machine, a Boeing engine, whatever it may be? So that I
Mhm.
think comes first. Then start doing like what you said, where you have like robots that can replace waiters. We already have robots that are having some sort of robot. If it, even think of it as a computer screen at a McDonald's where they can order their food and not have to deal with it.
Yep.
We're already growing, and that's what I think that why people think of all this crazy disruption or protests and riots. I'm like, see, it's a gradual thing. It's not going to be
Mm.
like, oh, you wake up tomorrow, there's robots everywhere. It's going to be, it happens at Volkswagen, it'll happen at this company, then it'll be this company. Chick-fil-A and others are now delivering food to your house. And we understand like
They've
drones are part of
already
this too. They already do it,
Yeah.
right? Now you're just going to get a more comprehensive piece of machine. We already have Roombas. I tell my wife because she's like totally freaked out. Says, "Wait, we already have a Roomba.
Mhm.
Why do you not see that the Roomba will become a more comprehensive? Because there's already a Roomba with a mop. You've seen the Roomba
Yep.
mop?
Yep.
Yeah, there's already a Roomba and a mop. So how come there's not like a Roomba and a mop that can do, I don't know what's next, dusting, carrying something, moving something? I don't know, whatever it is.
Maybe empty itself out on its own. There you go.
Yeah, yeah. And then they're already teaching them to fold clothes. That's part of its dexterity learning,
Mhm.
right? They already teach them how to fold clothes and move dishes and breakable items around.
Mhm.
So it being in the household is probably going to be a rich person thing. I would assume we'll have the first prototypes. I don't know how applicable that will be bigger scale, but I would assume things like this on task probably within 3 to 5 years for sure. For the wealthy, for sure. I don't know if it'll get down to us or
At
not.
the growth, yeah. At the
Yeah,
at
I
how
think
fast
that.
things are. Mhm.
Oh yeah, I think so. It's about like Elon will have a robot at his house that can walk his dog, and he can have one that does. I don't know. I don't know if it'll be the same robot or there'll be
Mhm.
tasks. That's kind of where I'm at on the gray area on the timeline because the timeline could be much faster if they were cost effective for a single task. I just don't think that's cost effective. Like the dog walker. So not everybody needs a dog walker. So how many of those that can what I mean? So I think that's the problem of the multitasking thing.
Mhm.
But no, I am all about like can't believe we're there. And there's so many things that you can do as a tool, and they're also in like I want to say beta test mode, but I think they have to have more data to know how to make them better, right? How
Yeah.
many people want to make a comic book to use the AI to help it make a comic book? They need more data to make it better to be a more applicable tool for the rest
Mhm.
of people who would want to do it longer term, that kind of thing. So but yeah, finance, accounting, taxes, law, and even education in a lot of ways. There's already a lot of online education anyway.
There is. Yep.
And if you had a more focused, like you didn't have to have a standard curriculum. You could have a curriculum that could adapt itself to the child or the learning curve or whatever you're on, especially for
Mhm.
higher education. Higher education seems like the easier one to get rid of faster because you're in a very specialized topics and you can just move a lot faster. I would think that online curriculum would evolve with some sort of AI much, much faster. I don't know if
They're
that
already
means,
looking into it because I do a side gig working for a college, adapting programs to the online format,
yeah,
and they're already looking at how can we streamline this using AI because they all are noticing the same pattern you and I are seeing is
yeah.
this is a thing, we can't ignore it, it's getting more and more prominent. How can we utilize it to cut costs down and streamline everything so that it's a lot more efficient and effective in delivery? That's already happening.
Yeah, and I think it's just I don't know why it's not already happening with education. I've always said I don't understand. My kids notwithstanding, I've always said at this point I'm not sure I would encourage anyone to have a 4-year degree. I would actually encourage you to enroll digitally in whatever schools you can get into all over the country. Take one class that's the experts on this over there, and take one
Mhm.
class or take the 3 classes over there, the expert on that. Learn your foreign language from this expert over here, and you just ultimately pull together this incredible resume of knowledge, which is way more important than the piece of paper. So,
Mhm.
yeah, pops down the AI rabbit hole surprises a lot of folks. My family doesn't even know what to say half the time. They're like, "What on earth is happening with Dad?" And so you know more than they know. But now it's on the phone too. So I have to remember, I have ChatGPT on the computers. I have ChatGPT on my phone. I have Grok on my phone. I have 2 or 3 more on the computers. And yeah, yeah. I don't know what happens next. I know.
It's scary to think about. It's very scary to think about. Like,
What
it's
is the
exciting sorry, go ahead.
No, what is the scary part? Like, talk. Say more. Say more. What
It's,
scares you most?
it's exciting that we're like you had pointed out earlier, right? It's exciting that in some ways we're going to be getting, like, search engines, for example, that give us less politicized or biased information when we're trying to do something. At the same time, it's scary to think that with a world population that's growing, this is going to become one of those things where it's like, how do you sustain the lives of so many people when you're also eliminating slowly and slowly many of the jobs that you're building AI or robots for. Like I remember, oh my god, it was well over 10 years ago, but the movie theaters up here, there's one chain that controls them, Cineplex is what they're called. And they except for like the big theaters in say like Toronto in major cities, it's all it's all digital. Like, only on weekends, on a box lot like a big weekend, you'll have people that are working the counter to give tickets, but other than that, you go in, you have to book your own ticket on their machine. So it was already happening there. And I remember like every high school kid would get a job at the movie theater because it was the best job to have at the time, right? And now we see it with grocery stores more. Now you have the automatic checkout lane. The only thing you really
Yep.
have to do is bag things. But how long is it going to be till they have a little thing that will bag it all for you, sort of deal? So it's just scary
Mhm.
to think about what the what's the word? The something implications. Like just how it will impact humanity on a larger scale. Because then you have to think about, okay, if we're going to try and give all of these people the materials and the money to live, is that where the government comes in and just be like, hey, here's a universal income program. There you go. Now everyone, and then who is that taking from? AI opens a door for a lot of things that seem kind of scary. That's all.
Mhm. No, I'm with you. I think this is
Mhm.
because you'll hear them use that phrase, and I will admit that I think the problem too is we can't keep our the time scale is the tricky part, right? Because
Mhm.
I think it's going to be more gradual in a lot of arenas. In other arenas, I think it's exceedingly fast.
Mhm.
So if you end up with like an accounting jobs and a massive number of accounting jobs go away because
Mhm.
you can have this software that can just be way more efficient and cheaper, whatever,
Mhm.
those are people that make a significant amount of money that could be jobless. How do they take that skill? What job do they go to? What career do they go to? Like that's not
Mhm.
a career hop that's easy to make, right? The old
Mhm.
quote, learn the code thing starts to come back really quick. Like, oh crap, you're just being disrespectful to people, but you have massive livelihoods being taken away. And I don't want to see a grab from one group, give to another group UBI program, which is what usually is proposed.
Mhm.
I do think that there's like challenges. People are trying to talk about that, not necessarily Bitcoin, but that sort of like a new way of thinking about
Mhm.
capitalism and communism could be outdated by this, not necessarily
Mhm.
within our life. Well, definitely my lifetime, but maybe within 50 years, you get more to like almost like Star Trek, where there's just such an abundance of things. You're not doing things for necessarily uh, a direct time to money correlation. Like things, certain things are just provided. It just the
Mm.
system just makes certain things. I think that's still pretty far away.
Mhm.
Um, I think a bigger concern for me is probably just the purpose and work laziness factor, right? That we already have I think a massive laziness factor already with people who,
Yep.
like you said, they just want to go be an NPC, turn on their game and forget about life. And I'm like, if we give them more tools to make that more common, how much more of a problem do we have with that? And then
Mhm.
just purpose, what's your purpose? What's the point? And I think there's a
Yep.
lot of people who won't really have a purpose or a point. They're just okay. That's what it is. They're not interested in um, taking this as a tool mechanism or taking this as a way to do things that they couldn't have done before and going, okay, I can now do this. I think it was a way of getting out of work and living on less and less, or I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. So that's why it's fun to talk about.
Yep.
That's why I
And
enjoy.
especially at the rate it's growing, these are like questions that you can't just put to the side, and be like, oh, in 10 years, we'll think no, it's like every day kind
Oh,
of
10
now at the
years.
rate. Yeah.
10
It's,
years. Do
it's,
you think you recognize massive portions of what we think of? I think it'll be significantly different in 10 years.
oh, I agree. I think it'll be significantly different in 3 years
Yeah,
alone.
I was gonna say 5 for sure, but definitely 3, yeah, 5 for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just so many things that are digitally driven, white collar type brain
Mhm.
jobs, how that economy functions, what drives money, what doesn't, how you
Mhm.
create, how you navigate. I think that there will be some sort of breakthrough with probably a small metropolitan area. I don't know what it would be, but it had to be something relatively small here, and probably our country, but it could be a different country.
Like smart
I
cities, you mean? Or
kind of like a smart city, but you go, all right, this is how the self-driving cars and trucks will work. So it's like it's small enough that they can manage doing this, but it's not so big that they can't handle it. So you would say you have a smallish city, and they're able to say, instead of having like the bike lane for the
Mhm.
bikers, we now have an AI lane, and that is self-driving vehicles. And now
Oh.
truckers and all the semis and all that can navigate that whole area, and all that
Mhm.
cost goes away, and then everything
Yep.
changes. So now you have, you know, uh, a more just a massive landscape that could be now copied and emulated, and that would be something where people could copy and emulate that over X amount of time. I don't know what that will look like on scale, but what else happens to that? It's a consequence, right? And I think this
Mhm.
is yeah, it can be dangerous. It could be Skynet type stuff in a way. I don't know that I'm down that rabbit hole yet. I
Mhm.
it the problem is we're the creators of this freaking thing. So it's going to emulate us. So if it's emulating the worst of us, then yes, it's going
Mhm.
to be defensive. Like, oh crap, you humans need to be eliminated because you're the freaking problem. Sure, right? But I don't know that it will be designed that way on purpose. I think it could just be our reflection back
Evolve
at
that
us.
way. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's our reflection, right? We deserve a reality TV president because that better reflects who we are. I hate to have to be admit that, but that is why we are in
That's
this
your
place
right.
that we are. We are in a place where we deserve a reality show, rich TV show host, and a completely incompetent, slept her way to the top politician as our two main options in America. We deserve every bit of that. If you can't see that, I don't know what to tell you. I'm just like it is such a reflection of 2024 that yeah.
Yep.
So
That's very true.
yeah. I don't know, chat you guys in comments. You guys will hit us up with what you guys think where Vex and I
Mhm.
have blind spots or not, or what we're thinking about, what you're enjoying or what you're not. So all right. Well, Batman Day is coming up, so I thought we'd do a clip for Batman Day. So we will clip that out from here. So make sure you check back on Batman Day because I will drop it on Batman Day. So the 21st, that will be my clip with this young lady. We're going to talk about some Batman comic books that she wants to read and should read, and then we'll
Mhm.
talk about some other stuff Batman related for Batman Day. But Vex, thanks for hanging out and doing a little kind of a watch your story. I don't know. We talked about what you've been into, what you've been doing.
Yeah, yeah, that's it's my pleasure. I'm always happy to chat with you when the schedule allows it,
We got to get
Pops.
our schedules to align more. I know. I know.
Yeah.
See if we
If
get
I
enough
just
AI
had
robots running our life. We'll just have a regular weekday show. That's what'll happen. We'll have nothing else to do. We might as well just do that.
There you go. There you go.
That's it. That's all right. Folks, be blessed. Talk hard. I am Pops. Take care. Till next time.